Okay, here we go. We're starting out on chapter 9. We're finishing this book up in another to-go show. So chapter 9, volume 7 of Teachings for Victory, the lecture by President Keita. Now, 2 weeks ago, Gene went back to Hawaii, so we skipped a week. And this should have actually been last week that we were doing this reading. This is the actual Go Show lecture. We already read the text in about an hour and 45 minutes or something like that 2 weeks ago. So it's such a long lecture then that I'm going to go ahead and skip the whole front gray boxes because they were already contained, all of that information, and we're going to read it again bit by bit anyhow, okay? So here we go, starting out on page 124 of volume 7, Teachings for Victory. Okay, it starts from on the Go Show on rebuking slander of the law and eradicating sins. So as I always say, what does that tell you just by the title of the lecture? What message is there for you to perceive and understand clearly? Very important message for you to understand clearly as a practitioner, somebody that's actually striving.
Always speak up for the law.
Always speak up for the law, because the whole deal is when you do, you reduce your bad karma. Okay, every time we run into problems and we think, oh, I got bad karma. Okay, don't forget, you made that karma, so quit bitching. That's stupid. All right. And the fact that you're now experiencing a causal result from that gives you the ability to turn poison into medicine and to change that karma. That's called eradicating it. That's turning it from a diluted state into an enlightened state, which is the whole deal, right? Let's get to the 10th world as whenever we can, as often as possible. All right? So again, on rebuking slander of the law and eradicating sins is a very significant title. It's how you should live your life, actually. Whenever you hear somebody slandering the law, you need to say, I don't agree with you. Yeah. You don't have to take it that much farther, but you cannot let it pass or you're guilty of you're complicit in the slander. I mean, that's the teaching going all the way to Chang'an, all right? The person that offends the rids the offender is his parent, he says, okay? So at any rate, let's start here. Go into the lecture on page 124. That I shown in rights the sufferings that all living beings undergo, all springing from this one cause, all of these are Nichiren's own suffering. All right, from WDND 2, page 934. As these words indicate, his life was characterized by his passionate vow to lead all people to enlightenment, a vow arising from his profound empathy for the sufferings of others and his ardent wish to help them become happy. Okay, so then what does that say? Right from the get-go. What should your highest priority in life be besides to live a long, healthy life? Kosen Rufu, which is exactly what I just said. All right, let's go. The sufferings that all living beings undergo, all springing from this one cause, the rejection, the slander of the law. That's what he's talking about, this one cause. All these are Nichiren's own sufferings. As these words indicate, his life was characterized by his compassionate vow to lead all people to enlightenment. Why can't we do the same thing? We absolutely can. Okay? I don't know about any of you, but I find myself thinking more in terms of all living beings rather than just a short list of people that I know. You know, as the years go by, as I accept the reality that I am the Buddha, I should be having that kind of an outlook. All right. So what he's encouraging from the very beginning about what he does is what we should do. Right? Okay. So that's lesson number 1. The great vow for Kosen Rufu always burned brightly in his heart. The vow was the most important thing. It wasn't about the immediate circumstance or benefit. Okay. It was about Kosen Rufu. If you put Kosen Rufu first from your heart, there's no prayer. You don't have a problem. You got it whipped. Actually, that's all it takes. That and never giving up, and you're handled. Okay? That's called mugi washing. What does mugi washing mean? Doubt-free faith, right. Okay, so that's what that actually is, actualized. When you behave in this manner, that's an expression of doubt-free faith. He says, he burned brightly in his heart, which remained unwavering in the face of every kind of persecution. This was even true on Sado Island in the bitter cold of winter. In fact, he continued to send encouragement to his disciples who were far away. Last paragraph on second column, page 124. In fact, he continued to send encouragement to his disciples who were far away from Sado, urging them to join him in devoting their lives also to the great vow for Kos and Rufu. This he did with a serene state of life filled with joy and confidence, which he describes with the words, I feel immeasurable delight. What brings about this serene state of life filled with joy and confidence? Perceiving the truth of the teaching that's revealed in the Lotus Sutra. Okay? Because the joy and the confidence comes from the fact that you are living as a living votary, supporting the Lotus Sutra in the age when the Lotus Sutra has lost its power, right? Mm-hmm. Only good for Shoho and Zoho. Is not good for Mappo. It says so in the Great Collection Sutra. This is a warning that Shakyamuni gave himself. All right? Saying that's why the whole significance of the fifth 500-year period. And Nichiren found himself historically as it appeared that it was at that point in time. There's a little bit of a difference now with the academic dissection of timeline. But he could perceive that he was in the latter day of the law. Myolo had already said it's the latter day of the law is coming. The date was already understood amongst all the people that practiced, okay? So he says he feels immeasurable delight. Now, that doesn't mean that he's a masochist. Okay? Why does he feel immeasurable delight? Huh?
Because he's found.
Because
he's great vow.
I can't understand the last word you're saying. Because of his
Great
great vow.
vow.
Exactly. That's the best way to express it. It's essentially the fact that he's doing exactly what the sutra says he will be doing. He's experiencing the same things that the sutra has already said that the votary will experience. And he knows that this thing that's been talked about for all this time, hey, I might be onto something here. Okay, in other words, he understands that his teaching is absolutely imperative to be exposed to the rest of the world. He is the Buddha of the latter day. Okay, it's only with that conviction that he can keep going through all this stuff and encourage his disciples to go through it and follow him. All right, even though he knows that following him is going to lead them to not, I won't say difficulty so much as challenge. Okay? So he says, Kosen Rufu is the mission that accords with the Buddha's intent and decree, which is what? What's the Buddha's intent and decree? To make everyone equal to himself. Okay? An epic journey to enable all humanity to attain enlightenment, all humanity to become the Buddha. In the light of the Daishonin's writings, we know that obstacles and difficulties will invariably arise in the course of working for Kosen Rufu. Okay, what does invariably means? Every damn time. Okay, it will always occur. All right, so we know that obstacles and difficulties will always arise in the course of working for Kosen Rufu. It is at such times that our true faith is tested. Okay? Why is our faith tested? For us to validate that it's real, that it's a real conviction. It's not just happy talk. Okay? It's who I am, not what I say. Okay? That is why the mentors of Kosen Rufu always encourage their disciples and pray for their growth and success, because they're not in a competition with them. They hope that all of them will grow to be greater leaders and greater champions for Kosen Rufu than they were. All right? They continue, because they share in that. They're a direct link to that. Whatever you do with your life, your mentors are like, yeah, Tom, that a boy, right? You increased their fortune by virtue of becoming who you became. You became that on your own, but it was through their efforts to open the door for you and help you through it and get started that allowed you to create the clarity in your mind that has allowed you to fight every day, decade after decade after decade throughout your life. Okay? So he says, they continually impart courage and hope, urging their disciples to strive alongside them to fulfill the shared vow of mentor and disciple. The shared vow. There's no separation. One's not better than the other. The vow of the mentor is no different than the vow of the disciple. How wonderful this is, this great equality that can be transferred from one human being to the next on the basis of life condition. Wow. Continuing in the middle of page 125, first column. The realm of mentor and disciple, the realm of comrades in faith. What's comrades? Equally joined for the same cause people. Those are comrades. We're all working together, each in our own way, each according to our own strength, but we're all working together. We're comrades. The realm of mentor and disciple, the realm of comrades in faith, the realm of two equals. One's a little ahead of the other in terms of the growth cycle. That's all it is. One's there to teach the other, just like there was somebody to teach him. And they're preparing the other to be able to teach others as well. Okay? My mentor, second Soka Gakkai president, Josei Toda, also tirelessly encouraged his disciples, just like Nichiren. Unceasing encouragement and shared efforts to spread the mystic law are the heart of the realm of mentor and disciple, united in the cause of Kosen Rufu and the realm of comrades in faith. Who are those people? Every single one of them. Who? Bodhisattvas of the earth. Of course you're all bodhisattvas of the earth. Yes, us. But bodhisattvas of the earth are the ones that unceasing encouragement and shared efforts to spread the mystic law are the heart and realm of mentor and disciple, united in the cause for Kosen Rufu in the realm of comrades in faith. In other words, you have a mentor. You're wanting to learn. You're wanting to advance. You're wanting to become a mentor. Okay? You're actually doing the practice that leads you to attain Buddhahood in your present form. Other people will just be chanting to see what they can get out of it. Okay, they don't have the same relationship. You have known this from past life. That's why you have the conviction to want to know more. The Daishonen's writings brim with words of encouragement to his disciples struggling amid great hardships, just as he is himself. Now, as we set forth to achieve victory in the new era of worldwide Kosen Rufu, let us study the true intent and spirit which with the Daishonin wrote on rebuking slander of the law and eradicating sins, and reconfirm the mission of mentors and disciples, striving in accord with the Buddha's decree. The Buddha's decree, make everybody equal to ourselves. Persecution, second column on page 125. Persecutions for the sake of Buddhism are proof of being a votary of the Lotus Sutra. From the Gosho. I have read your letter carefully in the past as well. When I was exiled to the province of Izu on account of Lotus Sutra, I rejoiced at heart, though when I say so, I suppose people will think that I am speaking immodestly. And this is why he was able to rejoice in heart, okay? Because he rationalized it from the truth as he understood what the teaching of the sutras reflected, okay? And here he goes. If, since the beginningless past, I had ever incurred blame for the sake of the Lotus Sutra, whether I was sincerely devoted to it or not, would I then have been born in this lifetime as a mere mortal? So he's going, I must have slandered. That's what he's qualifying right there. Okay, I must have slandered because I know what I'm facing right now is a reality of my life, and my life always reflects the true reality of my karma. Okay, and nobody else did this to me. All right? Therefore, when I was condemned to exile on Sado Island, though I felt downcast for a while, seeing that it was for the sake of the Lotus Sutra, I was also delighted, for I thought that I might thereby eradicate to some small extent the offenses of my previous existences. And there he unlocks a secret key that only Buddhas know, which is that when you encounter difficulties for the sake of the law, that isn't like a oh shit moment. That's like a oh yeah moment, okay? Because you definitely created fortune for yourself. You definitely fulfilled your mission and function as a bodhisattva of the earth. And you definitely eradicated some bad shit you haven't gotten rid of yet, or you wouldn't still be waltzing through it, okay? So he says, however, the various grave sins of the 10 evil acts, the 4 major offenses, the 6 major offenses, the 8 major offenses, the 10 major offenses, which again I said, that's all old Buddhism. You have to know what all those are. The 5 cardinal sins he'll dwell on because that's part of the Lotus Sutra. The 5 cardinal sins that condemn one to the hell of incessant suffering, the slander of the correct teaching, okay, and the sin of incorrigible disbelief accumulated since, we call that ichantikas, right? Ichantikas. Mm-hmm. Incorrigible disbelief means you won't accept no matter what anybody says. You've got a karmic impediment to being able to hear and understand. You have to overcome that yourself from your own actions, karmically. Accumulated since the beginningless past must stand taller than a huge mountain, run deeper than the great sea. However, as I said what I just said about disbelief accumulated since the beginningless past, how can that be mitigated? Only by somebody rebuking you for your slander. Only by somebody calling you out and exposing you to the truth. Otherwise, it's just somebody else going to throw another opinion on it. The only thing that's worthwhile is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, cut it off. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so he says, it was originally believed that this letter on rebuking slander of the law, and this is President Keita talking again, it was originally believed that this letter on rebuking slander of the law and eradicating sins was written in 1273 and sent to Shijo Kingo from Kamakura to Shijo Kingo in Kamakura from the Daishonin's place of exile on Sado Island. But the exact details concerning it are unknown. It is clear from its contents, however, that it was addressed to a disciple in Kamakura who was experiencing harsh persecution. Continues on page 126, first column. A number of passages in this writing are similar to those found in the opening of the eyes. So this is a very profound gosha, okay? Which suggests that the recipient was someone who, along with other disciples, was reading and rereading that treatise, the opening of the eyes, while persevering in faith and practice. It appears that the recipient, despite facing difficulties, had sent offerings to the Daishonin with the request that he pray for the repose of his or her deceased mother. This letter expresses gratitude for those sincere offerings. From the Daishonin's response, we can presume that the letter accompanying the offerings was of considerable length and must have conveyed his disciples' strong determination to protect the Daishonin and remain steadfast in faith in spite of intense persecution and the lack of understanding from family and relatives. Okay? So he's persevering in his practice of what the Daishonin has taught him. His relationship is with Nichiren at this point now. He is a bodhisattva of the earth. Whoever this letter was written to is a bodhisattva of the earth. They couldn't possibly have gotten this letter. It's too important a teaching. Okay? He continues on the bottom of page 126, first column. The Daishonin responds by writing, I have read your letter carefully, and then looks back on his life of unremitting persecution. With regard to encountering such persecution on account of the Lotus Sutra dating back to the Izu exile in 1261, he states, I rejoiced at heart, what a magnificent life state. He then clarifies, President Keita saying, what a magnificent life state, that I rejoiced at heart that I was being able to eradicate my sin of slandering the law. That's the most important thing, because he knows that's the thing that lasts lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. wherever you're at with that. Okay? He then clarifies his reasoning behind this statement from the perspective of the eternity of life, because that's the only reason it makes is a good deal. Eternity is a very long time. Anything that's bad, that's going to last for the rest of time, if you can get rid of it, you're probably better off, right? It's a reason to rejoice if you have the wisdom to perceive life on the basis of it, how it actually exists, right? He says that since the remote past, we have had countless opportunities to encounter the Lotus Sutra, and we didn't do the things necessary to sustain it. Or maybe we did, and that's why we preach and teach it the way we do now. It's a mix. Some of us are bodhisattvas of the earth from the original state. We all are, actually. Okay? He says that since the remote past, we have had countless opportunities to encounter the Lotus Sutra. While through any of these encounters, we should have already attained Buddhahood, we have not yet done so. The fact that we have been born in the evil age of the latter day of the law is because we were unable to maintain our faith in the Lotus Sutra when it meant risking our lives to do so, and therefore we let those countless opportunities pass us by. That's why it is so important, he stresses, to remain completely dedicated to our faith and attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. Now, again, goes back to the whole deal. Why is it the point supposed to be attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime rather than benefits and mitigating problems and that sort of thing? Why is this attainment of Buddhahood in this lifetime so important? That lasts forever. Okay? Mitigating problems and issues that exist within a particular incarnation is good to do, and it'll help make it an easier time of things for that period of time, but it's not eternal in its construct. Only invoking Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as the solution and seeking that as the solution and allowing that to open your mind to the wisdom of the Buddha, because that is the wisdom of the Buddha. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the only wisdom of the Buddha that matters. It's the one that makes everybody a Buddha. Okay? There is no Buddha wisdom that you will not perceive and understand if you devote yourself to Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It's a matter of time. You just haven't studied doctrine enough. You haven't done the things necessary to do it, but you're going to. You've already created the fortune in your life for that to be the case. Okay? So he's saying, when it meant risking our lives to do so, and therefore we let those countless opportunities pass by. That's why it is so important, he stresses, to remain completely dedicated to our faith and attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. Why? Why this lifetime? Because it's the only one you can be sure of. Yeah. A single moment of life. A single moment of life. It only occurs for a moment and it's gone, and it's shared with everything in the universe. Everything in existence shares the same single moment of life at the same moment of life. Okay? So, continuing. That is the reason, he explains, that when I was sentenced to be exiled to Sado Island, though I fell downcast for a while, seeing that it was for the sake of the Lotus Sutra, I was also delighted. He thus affirms his powerful conviction that encountering persecutions for the sake of Buddhism proves that he is the votary of the Lotus Sutra. So when he gets to Sado Island, does he just go, I'll be out of here in 2 weeks? No, he doesn't assume anything. He's prepared that he may not leave Sado Island. That's why I got to get all this important doctrine out to my believers who I know will take it to heart, because I know where their heart is. It's the heart that is important, right? And he affirms that though he had committed immeasurable offenses in previous lifetimes, and he does so, why does he qualify that for us? So it won't be so difficult for us to accept the truth that that's also what we've been doing. If it applies to him, it applies to us. Okay? That's the purpose of his life, is to express all of these things that make him a common, mortal, normal human being just like us, who possesses the 10th world and is actually the Buddha of beginningless time. Okay? So we're never spared the ability to be deluded. All right? Only our efforts keep that from being so. And he affirms that though he had committed immeasurable offenses in the previous lifetimes, because he was being persecuted on account of the Lotus Sutra, he would overcome everything and attain enlightenment. So you have to have that conviction. That's called Mugi washing. That's doubt-free faith, right? Okay. That's the only reason you can be happy is when you know you're going to win, even though it looks like you're losing. Seriously. It's the truth. Because when it turns out the way you knew it would, you look like a badass. And you feel like a badass. That's faith. That's the power of faith. Okay? Now you can be an example to others and speak to them with conviction that's not something that's off the top of your head. It's from your actual experience in life over and over and over and over again. This is a statement of the vow the Daishonin made upon establishing his teaching, which he also describes in the opening of the eyes as follows. I vow to summon up a powerful and unconquerable desire for the salvation of all beings and never to falter in my efforts. And in saying so from the opening of the eyes, what does that clarify? That in terms of a correct thinking for our lives and our incarnate state, we should have the same conviction. I vowed to summon up a powerful and unconquerable desire for Kosen Rufu, that's the salvation of all living beings, and to never falter in my efforts, to never go Titan. Yeah. That's all that's saying. Anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. In this letter, the Daishonin further explains, and I'm sorry if I sound angry. If anybody thinks I'm upset, I'm not. I'm filled with conviction from lots of Daimoku. In this letter, the Daishonin further explains that slander of the law is the primary cause of people's suffering. The sharp sword of faith, that is firm faith that is in the correct teaching, that is firm faith in the correct teaching, is the way to fundamentally put an end to slander of the law. I'll say it again because the dog's barking so much. The sharp sword of faith. Why is it referred to as the sharp sword of faith? Why do they use that as the analogous synonym? Because it can cut the karma. Yeah. It doesn't work through it, it cuts it off. It eliminates it. It kills it. Okay? That's why it's the sharp sword. The sharp sword of faith is the baddest ass tool in the bag. Always. That is firm faith in the correct teaching. Now, correct teaching is a significant little caveat he's putting there, because we're not talking about Nietzsche and Shu as I sit here talking to you. Okay? We're talking about Soka Gakkai. All right? That's it. Is the way to fundamentally put an end to the slander of the law, because we make widely and broadly available the correct teaching through our own efforts for the sake of our own lives, in the process of our own lives. The Daishonin asserts that when we arouse strong faith, which is being devoted to Kosen Rufu, cut the roots of disbelief and slander of the law, we quit doing the things that take back everything we've already paid for, and uphold and spread the correct teaching, as a Buddha should, as a Buddha would, we will be able to lessen our karmic retribution and attain Buddhahood in this lifetime through the benefit obtained by protecting the law. That's how you get it. All right? The great benefit, because if you don't protect the law, you never created the qualification that you're a Buddha in your present form. Frankly speaking, no Buddha is afraid of upholding and defending the law, even at the cost of their life. Even at the cost of their life. That's called not, in fact, they go, oh, cool, you're going to kill me? No, I'm for sure going to get it. I know it sounds a little, but it's the way it is. All right? Somebody with wisdom sees things that way.
Yes.
Okay? The great benefit of lessening karmic retribution and changing one's karma. All right? First paragraph, first column, page 127. In the writing he composed, the great benefit of lessening karmic retribution by rebuking slander, and then in doing so, changing our own karma. In the writings he composed while in exile on Sada, the Daishonin refers frequently to the principle of lessening karmic retribution and changing one's karma. In particular, through his own example as an ordinary person, he demonstrates the way by which heavy karma can definitely be mitigated, eradicated. What do we do with our negative karma? We make it something else. We transform it, right? He says, in particular, through his own example as an ordinary person, we change it from the karma that was caused by delusion to the karma that's reflecting our Buddhahood. All right? So in particular, through his own example as an ordinary person, he demonstrates the way by which heavy karma can definitely be transformed. Okay, and what is that a promise of then? There is no bad shit that you can't at least make less bad shit. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? When you talk about changing your karma, do you think that the karma that you're expressing in this moment is finished because you just expressed this moment? No. You want to eradicate that. You don't want a little taste of it every once in a while. Okay, so that's what he's really referring to, the eradication of your evil karma. Okay, changing, because when you become a Buddha, you're not going to you'll always be a Buddha. That's the whole idea. That's why it's worth whatever you got to go through to get there. That's why this is the only lifetime you should really be worried about, because this is the one that's going to validate whether or not you get to do it this time. All right? He said, in particular, through his own example as an ordinary person, he demonstrates the way by which heavy karma can definitely be transformed. We need not lament the weight of our karma or worry that the way to expiate the negative results of our past offenses is fraught with difficulty. Let me say that again. I messed it up. We need not lament the weight of our karma or worry that the way to expiate the negative results from our past offenses is fraught with difficulty. What did that mean? We need not be weighed down by how much it makes us feel bad so that we're incapacitated. We have no strength to get in front of the Gohonzon. We have no life condition. The shit's not going well. Is it really working? You know, all of that bullshit. Okay? Get rid of the bullshit, number one. On the front end, if you want to make a change, you got to first of all get rid of the delusion that's keeping you in the 9 worlds. Okay? Or else you're not going to be able to manifest the 10th in front of the Gohonzon. He says, or worry that the way to expiate the negative results of the past offenses are fraught with difficulty. If they're fraught with difficulty, you created it to be that way. Okay? So there's no reason to lament or worry about any of this shit. It's past. The cause has been made. The karma has been created. Now you got to solve it, or you're just going to be extending it. Okay? In the absence of resolution, there's a problem. It doesn't go away. That's why people chant and chant and chant and chant, and they never see a real change. And yeah, I don't really see much of a difference between now and then. It's the attitude by which they actually went through that process. They didn't do it with a seeking spirit. They didn't do it with confidence or with belief, faith. They're doing it more like, I'll go through the motions. It didn't work last time. I'm sure it won't again. That will not get you benefit. Okay? You need to be in the Gohonzon's face when that happens. You need to be going like, what's going on here? You know, I am assured that this is the way it is. I need to express that with my life for the sake of the law. How can that not happen? I say that to the Gohonzon with that attitude all the time. All the time. Because a Buddha's not afraid to call that reality out. All right? They're just devilish functions. Kick their ass. All right? where am I? Okay, with the weight, okay, it is in fact just the opposite. We needn't do all this being bummed out. He says it's just the opposite. We should have this dynamic feeling about what we're involved with. It is in fact just the opposite. The teaching of the mystic law enables us to transform our karma completely. It shows us that we can build here and now a state of happiness, so we don't have to worry about waiting for our next lifetime. That's the point. If you're waiting for your next lifetime, then you missed it. You missed the opportunity to do it in this lifetime. And it's because you didn't believe it could be done in this lifetime. That's the only reason you won't be able to do it in a single lifetime. Faith. The teaching of the mystic law enables us to transform our karma completely. It shows us that we can build here and now a state of happiness that will endure throughout the three existences of past, present, and future, forever. And why is it past? How can it exist in a past? Because when you transform, you change that karma. That karma got affected even though it's past. Karma is always an event that's already occurred, right? So when it's no longer what it was, or else it would be reflecting the same result, that actually the past has been changed effectively. Do you follow? All right. An age of rampant, am I talking too much? Okay. Page 127. An age of rampant slander and of the law and unrelenting persecution is in fact a rare, this is why I'm trying to say what I'm saying. He clarifies this. An age of rampant slander of the law and unrelenting persecution, which is right now, okay? That's what he's talking about, is right now, is in fact a rare 1 in 1,000 opportunity to expiate one's negative karma from past offenses. That's why the Daishonin says the 3 obstacles and 4 devils will invariably appear, and the wise will rejoice while the foolish retreat. Why do the wise rejoice? Because by them appearing and making themselves known, we can focus to get rid of them. We can acknowledge the truth of our own life by seeing it for what it really is, rather than telling ourselves what we think it is. Okay? He says, later in this letter, middle of second column, page 127, the Daishonin writes, if in such a time I do not expunge these heavy sins, if at such a time when there's so much slander, it's so easy for me to go, you're slandering, wow, this is like rain coming down a good fortune. I can just keep telling all the people I see that they're slandering. Later in this letter, the Daishonin writes, if in such a time I do not expunge these heavy sins, then at what time can I expect to do so? In doing so, he is sending a message. Do not allow this opportunity to slip by. This is the moment of truth. Times when we are assailed by a series of difficulties are unequaled opportunities to change our karma. I have to stop here and tell you a little story about me. I mean, that's what I did. That's what happened to me. It wasn't because I read it and I tried doing what this said. But when I got hit with a difficulty that changed my life from what it had been to what it is now, essentially, I couldn't understand what the hell happened, because it was like the floor dropped out from under me, man. I was like, I was doing so well, and I hadn't done anything really differently for suddenly everything to stop and change, other than I married my wife. Okay? And the bottom fell out. Okay? And rather than freaking, I said, I got to figure out how this could happen. Because for me, in my practice, again, I've done a lot of shakabuku. I gained a lot of fortune from refuting slander. No problem. Okay? I had never really experienced a time when I didn't get exactly what I asked for. I really had not gone through any really tough experience in my 27 years or 30 years of practice at that point in time that really made me question whether or not I knew everything already. Okay? It was only that experience that made me say, okay, I must have missed something. I must have missed something. Okay? So I'm going to go back and figure it out. That's all I cared about. I didn't care about whether I stayed married. I mean, all I cared about, I felt like this took me to this point. And it was in that process of figuring out what that was, which was essentially the only way for me to figure out that I was full of shit was to see that I was. Okay? Put it very frankly. All right? And all the things that I thought were not completely correct. They were in the right direction, but they were distorted. They were not something that I could convey to others with a conviction that I know I'm being the Buddha. Okay? It was smart advice. It wasn't the Buddha talking. All right? That's what changed. You want to know why I know the Go Show so well? That's the point in time I started reading the Go Show all over again, over and over and over, because I had to figure out what this was. And then as I read the Go Show over and over and over again, I said, oh, this is exactly what that is. Okay. Oh, and I wouldn't have read the Go Show like this if I wouldn't ask that question and assumed I must have missed something. Oh, this had to happen for me to be able to make this change that allows me to now be actually happy. Not fake happy, really happy. Okay, real happiness. It qualified me to go from being an evil person to having a family. You know, to be married, being actually in one relationship for over 25 years. Holy shit, that's a record. Okay? That's definitely her. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. If you can encounter difficulties with the wisdom to understand that if I'm getting hit by a difficulty, it's for my own benefit. It's for the sake of me being able to fulfill my mission as the Buddha.
Yes.
Okay? It's for the development of my wisdom, which I can't manifest on my own. Circumstances create the ability to have these epiphanies of perception and clarity. You know, and almost never is it like laughter that you come to those epiphanies. It's through difficulty.
Yes.
Okay? So that's what he's talking about. Times when we are assailed by a series of difficulties are unequaled opportunities to change our karma. In the opening of the eyes, the Daishonin observes, when iron is heated, this is one of my favorite quotes from the Go Show. When iron is heated, if it is not strenuously forged, the impurities in it will not become apparent. Now, do you understand that analogy? Do you know anything about metal making? When you see a sword, did they pour a bunch of steel in a mold and then they sharpened it? No, they fold it and they fold it and they pound it and then they fold it again and they pound it and they fold it again and they pound it. And they keep this thing up until all of the impurities have manifested the surface and been dissipated. That's how they have that's how you have a samurai sword versus any other sword. Okay, the Japanese are experts on how to do this. I think they might have even invented it. I don't know. But that's what he's talking about. When iron is heated, if it is not strenuously forged, and forging is when they put the heat on it over and over and over. They stick the thing that they just pounded into good shape. And you're going, what are you sticking it back in the fire for? To make it strong. Okay? The impurities in it will not become apparent because you can only get rid of impurities what? How can you even know impurities exist? They manifest and you can perceive them. The only way you can get rid of an impurity is to be able to see it. If it doesn't come out, it just stays hidden. You can't become pure. Okay? So he says, only when it is subjected to the tempering process again and again will the flaws appear. Each obstacle and difficulty we encounter forges the iron that is our lives. That's why we go through that shit, even though we chant. We go through it so that we can not just chant, we can become Buddhas that allow other people to become equal to us.
Yes.
All right? not just common mortals that went through a phase of life that involved Nichiren Buddhism. He says, each obstacle and difficulty we encounter forges the iron that is our lives, driving out the flaws of our past offenses. In this way, we are tempered into a magnificent sword that nothing can destroy. Top of page 128, striving with even greater commitment amid adversity. Okay, and this is antithetical to the way your mind and your psyche behaves, because when you get hit with great adversity, generally speaking, it doesn't generate even a greater commitment. It's very rare that it generate greater commitment. Only true victorious generals, leaders, only those kinds of exceptional individuals turn adversity into profit. Okay, that's what we do. When we hit the adversity, we don't say, why me? Why? I don't deserve this. We go, another chance to show the power of my life and to challenge the Gonza for the sake of my faith. And another story to tell somebody when they're having trouble. If I can overcome my problems, I've got a million stories to tell that beat every problem I've ever heard. I've never heard anybody have as many problems as me. Okay, so on rebuking slander, the Daishonin repeatedly proclaims his joy, saying, I had rejoiced at heart when I was exiled to Izu, and seeing that it, my exile to Asado, was for the sake of the Lotus Sutra, I was also delighted. His response to this, to being exiled, His response to being exiled was to rejoice that it was the time for Kosen Rufu in the latter day of the law. In this way, he taught his disciples the greatness of their shared mission. He has the same mission. We're all equal, even with Nichiren Daishonin. Do understand that. And he called out to them to press on with their committed efforts to spread the mystic law. Learning of the Daishonin's lofty state of life and his compassionate vow for Kosen Rufu while he was in exile on Sado, his disciples roused their courage and expanded their own life state. With the example of the mentor, the disciple emulates it and arouses deep faith. It is not difficult to imagine that this provided a powerful impetus for their overcoming persecution in Atsuhara or whatever area they were in, or Kamakura, wherever they might be. This provided a powerful impetus for their overcoming persecution and triumphing over their adversity. In the opening of the eyes written on Sado, the Daishonin writes, "This I will state, let the gods forsake me, let all his persecutions assail me. Still I will give my life for the sake of the law." And true to those words, he embarked afresh in propagating the mystic law while enduring obstacles and persecutions. He made a great vow to lead people to enlightenment. I will be the pillar of Japan. I will be the eyes of Japan. I will be the great ship of Japan. This is my vow, and I will never forsake it. From the opening of the eyes. Raising high the banner of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as the teacher of the latter day of the law. The latter day of the law is 10,000 years and beyond. It's infinite. He initiated his great struggle for Kosen Rufu to establish a way for all people living amid the realities of this world to realize unshakable happiness into the eternal future. Without understanding this lofty spirit, Nichiren Buddhism would not exist. Why does it say that? Without understanding this lofty spirit, let me go back. Raising high the banner of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as the teacher of the latter day of the law, he initiated his great struggle for Kosen Rufu to establish a way for all people living amid the realities of this world to realize unshakable happiness into the eternal future. Without understanding this lofty spirit, Nichiren Buddhism would not exist. What is that qualifying there? We have inherited this process directly from the original teacher. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the manner in which we're functioning in our lives for the sake of the law is exactly the same manner in which he functioned in his life for the sake of the law. You should be able to see that there's no separation between you and him. He's not God. Okay? Right. He's a great bodhisattva, and so are all of you. Yes. All right? And he's saying, without understanding this lofty spirit, could the Daishonin's teachings have continued to prevail and exist for all this time to finally reach us 800, going on 800 years later? No. Okay? So this understanding is the correct teaching. Okay? Without understanding this lofty spirit. A lofty spirit is understanding the Daishonin's Buddhism of sowing. Okay? Nichiren Buddhism would not exist. Shakyamuni's might still have continued to, but it's already lost its power as of the second 1,000 of the years being done. The mentors and disciples of Soka have revitalized and are fulfilling this great vow for Kosen Rufu, for widespread propagation, for everybody to be equal to the Buddha in modern times through their unsparing efforts. This year, 2015, is the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. It was also decades ago that my mentor, Josei Toda, stood up alone amid the ashes of a war-devastated Japan. The founder of our Soka movement, Tanesaburo Makaguchi, died in prison for bravely resisting the persecution of the Japanese militarist authorities, who employed state Shinto as the spiritual pillar for unifying the nation in the war effort. Mr. Toda was imprisoned with his mentor, Mr. Makaguchi, and 2 years later was released, vowing as a disciple to vindicate him, that is, to demonstrate to all the world the greatness and righteousness of his mentor, Mr. Makaguchi. Mr. Makaguchi. He initiated a far-reaching people's movement, reinvigorating one individual after another as he spread the ideals of Soka, based on the humanistic teachings of Nichiren Buddhism, and strove to free the world of misery. Very key paragraph here. I bet it got by you. He initiated a far-reaching people's movement because it didn't exist prior to that, right? What's the far-reaching people's movement?
Everywhere.
Soka Gakkai. Now, again, a lay organization, okay, of people practicing for the sake of Kosen Rufu, not for the sake of supporting the priests, okay, of achieving the vow. Okay, that's the whole point. That's the difference between Soka and everything else. That's what he's trying to explain here. He initiated. Why is Toda different than anybody else? Honda or anybody? There's a bunch of people that chanted Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, by the way. All right? It's not just President Makaguchi and President Toda. We're not the only ones in Japan chanting at the time that President Makaguchi and President Toda started practicing. Okay? Not even close. He's saying, but he said he initiated a far-reaching people's movement. Now, how was it a far-reaching people's movement? Because it didn't exclude anyone. It primarily included all the people that most people would have rejected. Okay? Number one, no exclusions based on anything. All right? Reinvigorating one individual after another. What does that pertain to? Each of these downtrodden individuals who had just come through a state of war and probably the loss of all material benefit in their lives, had their unconquerable country of Japan conquered. All of their shit blown away in terms of what they knew to be real. Okay? He's saying that he reinvigorated each one. He gave them something real to believe in, something to have confidence in, something they could base their lives on. Okay? Teaching based on the humanistic teachings of Nichiren Buddhism. So he didn't just take the Hokkeko thing. He didn't just take Nichiren Shoshu thing. He did his own thing. That's why it eventually was a problem, because it got much bigger than Nichiren Shoshu. Because it was the right thing. That's why it got so big. Nichiren Shoshu was the smallest school at the time he came along. All right? And strove to free the world of misery. based on the humanistic teachings of Nichiren Daishonin, of Nichiren Buddhism, and strove to free the world of misery. Strove to devote his life to the promise of Kosen Rufu. It's a concept at that point in time. Okay? There's not worldwide people chanting.
Not yet.
The only time schools went outside to Japan to do shakabuku, or not, they never did shakabuku, excuse me. The only time that schools ever got, became manifest outside of Japan was because they were serving Japanese communities. It had nothing to do with all the other kinds of people. That was not for Kosen Rufu. It was for propagating the school. Okay? Let me get that. Go Kuyo. When I was inaugurated as third Soka, bottom of page 128, second column. When I was inaugurated, President Ikeda is saying, when I was inaugurated as third Soka Gakkai president on May 3rd, 1960, I deeply etched in my heart the vow Nichiren Daishonin made in the opening of the eyes. This I will state, let the gods forsake me, let all persecutions assail me. Still I will give my life for the sake of the law. And boy, wouldn't it be wonderful if we all had that same conviction? I try to. I don't know about you. There's no reason you can't as well. Live your life for the sake of the law. That's not a very difficult, deep thing to have in your mind. Do it. Want to try to achieve. If you want to try to achieve it, you're more than halfway to actually achieving it.
Yeah.
You've already overcome the devil of sixth heaven that says that that's all just happy talk. Because you're talking about Kosen Rufu when you say for the sake of the law. Okay? In my diary entry for that day, I wrote, shall begin my lifetime battle to the day that he was inaugurated on May 3rd, 1960. He wrote in his diary, shall begin my lifetime battle to spread the law transcending life and death. The law that permeates all existence. The above passage from the opening of the eyes expressed my determination upon becoming Soka Gakkai president, and in the 55 years that have passed since then, it has never left my heart. Continuing first paragraph, page 129. Praise for disciples who share the Daishonin struggle. Who are the disciples that share the Daishonin struggle? Bodhisattvas of the earth. That's we. Bodhisattvas of the earth is what I was trying to get. Nevertheless, being no more than an ordinary person, but I'm not. I have at times been apt to regret having taken such a course when I was letting the 9 worlds be my guide. And if even I am troubled by such feelings, then how much more so in the case of a woman such as your wife, who is unaware of all the circumstances surrounding the matter. So when he was talking about before, not sure what the gender was, his or her, sounds like a guy, but who knows? Persons like you and her do not have full knowledge of the Buddhist teachings, and it pains me to think how greatly you must regret you have ever chosen to follow Nichiren. And yet, contrary to what might be expected, I hear that you two are even firmer and more dedicated in your faith than I myself, which is indeed no ordinary matter. I wonder if Shakyamuni Buddha himself may have entered your hearts, and it moves me so that I can barely restrain my tears. The great teacher Myolo says in his commentary on the annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, when his book on Tentai's words and phrases. He says, therefore we know it is because of seeds planted in previous existences that in the latter age, so this is not talking about while he's alive, okay? He's talking about after 500-year period and after. Therefore we know that it is because of seeds planted in previous existences that in the latter age, one is able to hear the law even for an instant, and having heard it, take faith in it. All right? He says, continuing page 129, as the Daishonin writes here, second column, we are ordinary people, and as such, as we practice our faith, are likely on occasion to have regrets, like when it seems like these obstacles are getting annoying. All right? Needless to say, for us, great obstacles serve as springboards to transform our karma. See, if we view them that way, that's what they can become. They're no longer difficulties, they're our good friends. They're the means to the end of vanquishing the things that are truly the seed of what burdens us, our karma, okay? There is no way that those who uphold the mystic law will suffer. You should have that confidence. Mugi Washing would say that you do. If you have doubt-free faith, there should be no doubt in your mind. That's what that means. But even if we understand this in our heads, at times we may allow ourselves to be defeated by our immediate sufferings and complain about our lot. And I definitely do that.
Yeah, me too.
I definitely do that. Okay? And I say to the Gohonzon, I don't know how much more I can take. Please, let's get to a pause. Let's get to a pause. And then I expect that pause to happen, and I always get it.
Yes.
I always get it. When I really can't take anymore, I don't just ask for the pause from the beginning of the problem. But when it's going on and on and on and on, and it's weighing on me, I have a conviction that when I'm chanting to the Gohonzon, I'm having a one-on-one with Nichiren Daishonin. We're bros. Okay? He is my mentor. He is my senior. Okay? It's not that kind of bro kind of thing, but it's the kind of thing I don't have to talk in a different way to him. I communicate as I speak to you. Okay? And there's no doubt that I have an absolute perception that something's hearing what I'm saying, because my mind is connected to the mind of the Buddha, man. I mean, I have all kinds of stuff that I don't know how it gets there, that got there. All right. So he says, okay. I'm trying to give you a secret here. Okay, because it really is real. This really works. What he's saying right now, if you'll utilize what he's saying, these words, you'll see results. Okay, needless to say, for us. And when he says for us, he's talking about for us who are truly disciples of the law. All right. Great obstacles serve as springboards to transform our karma. So we should always understand that thing that we're experiencing is for the ability to mitigate it and get rid of it. It's not punishment. It's actually your get out of jail free card if you utilize it properly. It's just the opposite of punishment. It's freeing you. It gives you the chance to free yourself. You are the only one that can free you. Words, other people, it's you. There is no way that those uphold the mystic law will suffer. Now, when Daisaku Ikeda makes a declarative like that, take it to heart, because Nichiren's made the same declaratives. They are not liars. They are not bullshitters or embellishers. Okay? They're telling you that because you should have confidence in that. But even if we understand this in our heads, which is really saying even if we understand this theoretically, okay, because if we understand it in actuality, it stops happening. Okay? At times, we may allow ourselves to be defeated by our immediate sufferings and complain about our lot. We may think that there is no point in practicing this Buddhism if it is going to involve so many challenges, or may wonder if we might have had an easier time if we hadn't started practicing. I've never had that experience, so I don't know how to relate to that. But I'm sure there are many people that he's writing this for that have, and I've definitely known many people that have. Okay, I've got a friend right now that's facing a huge health problem, and because he's facing the health problem, it's affected his faith. Rather than him seeing it as an opportunity to expiate this karma permanently, so you don't have out of the clear blue sky such a heavy thing happen in your delightful life of chanting. Okay, so that's what, but it's all balanced on your faith. You know, you go the wrong way, you screwed yourself. You go the right way, you made it yourself. Wasn't anybody else that did it. You did it. You're the Buddha. Okay? So he says, We may think that there is no point in practicing this Buddhism if it is going to involve so many challenges, or we may wonder if we might have had an easier time if we hadn't started practicing at all. Okay, and again, somebody's been chanting for 50 years. I don't think this way anymore. But years and years ago, probably I did. I just don't remember. Well aware of this human trait, the Daishonin teaches the means by which, and by the way, that one other thing I will say is that at no point in time in all the 50 years that I practiced, more than 50 years I practiced, has there ever been this straightforward an explanation of the truth. Okay? It isn't until all of this came out that I started hearing this truth spoken of directly. It was always benefits and benefits and more benefits and more benefits and more benefits. We didn't really talk about overcoming, you were going to overcome difficulties, right? That was never something like, this is part and parcel, be expecting it, be aware of it, don't be afraid of it. That's why I have so much, that's why I read this. This is stuff that I never heard of for the first 35 years of my practice. It wasn't until I started reading everything on my own. Going to meetings, I never heard anybody talk like this.
No.
Okay? Sorry, straight up. Not being critical, just saying this is a different level of education, okay, than the one that we might get at our discussion meetings. He's saying, well aware of this human trait, the Daishonin teaches the means by which ordinary people can walk the path to attaining the noble state of Buddhahood. Genuine Buddhism teaches fundamental trust and respect for the Buddha nature inherent within all human beings. In this writing, the Daishonin particularly praises the faith of a female disciple, because he says your wife, even your wife is such strong faith. In fact, there are many such people in there were many such women in Kamakura who persevered in faith alongside the Daishonin, undeterred by persecution. He probably would have never made it without all of his female followers. They too would surely be included in his words of praise. You are even firmer and more dedicated in your faith than I myself. In his conclusion that their dedication was indeed no ordinary matter, the Daishonin highly commends his brave female disciples who, despite challenging circumstances, sent life-sustaining offerings to him in his place of exile where securing food was difficult. Gratitude for each individual, page 130, first column. That his disciples had sent such heartfelt gifts to him, that person striving selflessly to fulfill the Buddha's decree of Kosen-Rufu as leader of bodhisattvas of the earth, prompted the Daishonin to say, I wonder if Shakyamuni Buddha himself may have entered your hearts, and it moves me so that I can barely restrain my tears. Here the Daishonin expresses his deep appreciation for his disciples' aid, saying how profoundly touched he is. In many other writings, the Daishonin also speaks of being so moved that he is unable to restrain his tears. And I can relate to that. For example, here's another quote. Now you and I are joined together as teacher and lay supporter, but so long as you live, endowed with the sense organs and subject to the outflows of defilement, you must follow and obey the ruler of the nation. Thus you are going to face this present perilous situation, but I can hardly hold back my tears thinking of how your personal crisis will serve to relieve you of your past offenses. Secondly, I am writing this through my tears, moved by the sincere offerings you have sent. Another Gosho. I believe this one from volume 2 is like on the 3 false teachers or something like that. My tears never cease to flow when I think of it, the sincere offerings you have made, from WND 1134. These passages are all express gratitude and praise for his disciples' tremendous efforts. How wonderful it is to live dedicated to supporting the teacher who is the votary of the Lotus Sutra while working for the realization of Kosen-Rufu. The The Daishonin stresses that each person who, in this troubled age, personally embraces faith in the Lotus Sutra, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and shares it with others, has a truly profound mission, and he wholeheartedly praises disciples who support him in his great mission of Kosen Rufu in the latter day of the law. Continuing on page 131. The bonds connecting mentor and disciple originate in the distant past, and that was already made clear by Myolo's quote earlier, right? Next, the Daishonin quotes a commentary by the great teacher Myolo of China, emphasizing the depth of karmic connections. The great teacher Myolo says in his commentary, the annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, Volume 7, therefore we know it is because of seeds planted in previous existences that in the latter age one is able to hear the law even for an instant, and having heard it, take faith in it. The Daishonin then infers that he, as the person actually propagating the mystic law in the latter day of the law, is an original disciple of the Buddha of the remote past, carrying out the mission of the Bodhisattvas of the earth, whom Shakyamuni entrusted with propagating the Lotus Sutra after his passing. The mission of the Daishonin, and to clarify, in his writing at this point in time, he's not qualifying that I am the true Buddha. Okay, but he is, because it's Shakyamuni never said those words. Okay, and 10,000 years. It's just, I could go on and on and on, qualify that. But he's writing it, and that's the way it's written, and so that's what we're literally qualifying here. The mission of the Daishonin and his followers is incredibly important from the perspective of Buddhism. Here, while revealing the true intent of Shakyamuni, the Daishonin tells that his efforts to chant and spread the mystic law are indeed the truest and most correct practice of all. Again, here, while revealing the true intent of Shakyamuni. Here, while revealing what? What is the true intent of Shakyamuni? To make everyone equal to himself, to make everyone a Buddha. So he's saying the mission of the Daishonin and his followers is incredibly important from their perspective of Buddhism. Because without them, there's no more Buddhas in the latter day, in the latter age, right? He says here, while revealing the true intent of Shakyamuni, revealing the means by which all people can become equal to the Buddha, the Daishonin tells us that efforts to chant and spread the mystic law are indeed the truest and most correct practice of all. Okay? So first he declares, bottom of page 131, first column, during his 40 and more years of teaching, Shakyamuni Buddha kept secret the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. Of course, that's Chinese and shit. He didn't, that was not in the lexicon of what he was saying. Not only that, what he's talking about is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo before Shakyamuni qualified. Shakyamuni kept saying the law, 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 the law. No one had ever given the law its name. No one had ever qualified what the name of the law was. That's what Nichiren's function is, to bring forth what is the law that was spoken of in the former and the middle day, the 2,000 years of Shakyamuni's teachings. Okay, that now will last from 500 years after his passing to on into the infinite future, on past 10,000 years and beyond. That's what that means. Okay, so during his first 40 and more years of teaching, Shakyamuni Buddha kept secret the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. Not only that, he remained silent concerning them when he preached the first 14 chapters of the Lotus Sutra, which comprised the theoretical teaching. It was only with the lifespan chapter that he spoke openly regarding the 2 characters of Renge. What is Renge? Lotus, of course, but what is it really? What is he talking about? How's this all fit? It was only with the lifespan chapter that he spoke openly regarding the 2 characters of Renge, that he spoke openly of the law of the simultaneity of cause and effect, which is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, that's what Shakyamuni was talking about, but he couldn't say what it was because it ain't his job. Okay, Nichiren is the one that qualifies what that's called, that law. All right, which represent the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo in the latter day and indicate the true effect and the true cause. And you understand true effect and true cause, all that, right? Okay, so propagating the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo after the Buddha's passing. Page 133, or pardon me, 131, second column. The Daishonin asserts that the Bodhisattvas of the earth, the original disciples of Shakyamuni, the Lord of Teachings, appear only in the latter day of the law to propagate the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. He then goes on to highlight the reality that though various bodhisattvas appeared and served as great teachers in the 2,000 years of the former and middle day of the law, the Lotus Sutra was not spread, declaring that now, having entered the latter day of the law, the time has come for the appearance of the bodhisattvas of the earth. And don't forget, don't be lost on this, above here where it says, propagating the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo after the Buddha's passing. The Daishonin asserts that the bodhisattvas of the earth, the original disciples of the original teacher, is what I'm going to rephrase that as, okay, who he qualifies in the orally transmitted teachings as being the lords of teachings, plural, of all of Mappo, okay, appear only in the latter day of the law. They don't appear during other lifetimes. They're original. They're already Buddhas. Okay, they're the original Buddhas of the original state. They're the Buddhas that taught all the other Buddhas that are already Buddhas how to be Buddhas. Do you understand? Okay, they weren't functioning as common mortals. All right? They were Buddhas that appeared as common mortals for the sake of what they had to do being around common mortals. All right, so declaring that now, having entered the latter day of the law, the time has come for the appearance of the bodhisattvas of the earth, because now is the only time we come out. He explains the great signs foretelling that though the Lotus Sutra has perished, it is in fact eternal, because the Great Collection Sutra says that the Lotus Sutra has expired after 2,000 years, and now he's brought out the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo that keeps the Lotus Sutra valid, okay, based on the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, okay, is the reason the Lotus Sutra has validity in the latter day. All right? Indicates that the age has arrived when the mystic law will be spread by these great bodhisattvas. However, given the nature of the latter day of the law, a troubled and evil age, the practitioners of the Lotus Sutra are certain to face extraordinary opposition. The Daishonin next describes his intense struggle to overcome the fierce storms of persecution and create the time for the propagation of the correct teaching throughout the land. Continue on page 132, and we are almost done. Making the same cause for Buddhahood as Bodhisattva, never disparaging, respecting others. Going back to the Gosho. During the more than 2,000 years since the Buddha's passing, there have been evil rulers who were cursed by their subjects and traitorous persons who were hated by all. But Nichiren, though guilty of no fault, has without respite for the past 20 years and more been cursed and abused, assaulted with swords and staves, and pelted with rocks and tiles by people both high and low. This is no ordinary occurrence. Mine is like the case of Bodhisattva never disparaging, who, toward the end of the middle day of the law of the Buddha Awesome Sound King, was cursed and reviled over a period of many years. Moreover, Shakyamuni Buddha cited the example of this Bodhisattva and predicted that after his own passing in the latter day of the law, events would unfold in the same manner as in never disparaging's time, which he also clarified was in a past life he was never disparaging, right? Shakyamuni. And yet, whether here close at hand in Japan or in the distant land of China, such a thing has never been known to happen on account of the Lotus Sutra. Because people hate me, no one mentions the significance of these things. If I mention it myself, in other words, I'm the first person and only person that's taken all this shit for the sake of the Lotus Sutra, which is what the Lotus Sutra said would happen to the votary. Okay? So he said, but because people hate me, no one mentions the significance of these things that are said in the Lotus Sutra that I'm actually fulfilling. If I mention it myself, it may seem like self-praise. Okay? If I fail to mention it, however, I will commit the offense of making lies of the Buddha's words. Because if I don't take on this aspect, then what he said would happen didn't really happen. He's a liar. Right. I speak of it because to hold one's life lightly, but to value the law, is the way of a worthy person. That's the lesson of do not begrudge your life. right? He says, I, Nichiren, resemble Bodhisattva never disparaging because I do not begrudge my life. Whether the ruler of a nation murders his parents or a lowly subject does away with his father and mother, though the murderers differ greatly in social position, because the cause is identical, both will fall into the hell of incessant suffering of taking a parent's life. Similarly, though Bodhisattva never disparaging and I stand on different levels, we perform the same action. Therefore, if Bodhisattva never disparaging is destined to attain Buddhahood, can there be any doubt that I will gain the fruit of Buddhahood as well? Of course, he's already the Buddha, but they're all looking at Buddha as something outside of themselves at this time. We haven't had the benefit of the years of dissertation by people that know. Page 133. If we are to transform the President Keita, if we are to transform the troubled age of the latter day, in which people are filled with suffering, into an age in which people can thrive and triumph, we need to have the vow of the bodhisattvas of the earth, the commitment to keep moving forward while challenging and overcoming unprecedented obstacles and difficulties. The teaching of the Lotus Sutra that awakens the Buddha nature inherent in all people is the fundamental philosophy for accomplishing this great endeavor, and it is embodied in the actions of Bodhisattva never disparaging. In this writing, the Daishonin points out that his actions are exactly the same as those of Bodhisattva never disparaging. He declares that there is no doubt that his own attainment of Buddhahood is assured. And that's why he can assure you of yours. For he is making the same causes as this Bodhisattva, which you will be too if you're of the same mind as Nichiren, whose actions led to attaining enlightenment, as yours will as well. And later being reborn as Shakyamuni Buddha. I don't think that's going to happen to you. You're a bodhisattva of the earth. You chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. You're not Shakyamuni. In this section in particular, the Daishonin focuses on the persecution that arises in the form of slander and abuse and unrivaled hatred and jealousy. Why do practitioners of the Lotus Sutra encounter opposition and persecution? Because in an evil age, deluded people ruled by earthly desires cannot recognize the correct teaching by which all people can gain happiness, and instead they react to it with hostility and enmity and hatred and commit slander of the law. Encountering such obstacles is proof. Encountering such obstacles is proof that one is a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra. Put another way, genuine practitioners are defined by their efforts to help people transform their lives on a fundamental level and dispel their innate darkness or ignorance. What's that called? What's that really saying? Put another way, genuine practitioners are defined by their efforts to help people attain Buddhahood in their present form. Okay? By doing this, by transforming people's underlying beliefs and thinking, it is possible to fundamentally change society and change a new age and create a new age. That's how we can do Kosen Rufu. We transform the environment, and that includes all the people in it. The nobility of the spirit of Buddhism is that it lies in striving to lead all people to enlightenment, even those who attack and persecute its practitioners. Though in his place of exile, the Daishonin's very life was in danger, his state of mind was such that he wished above all to save those who had persecuted him. Elsewhere he writes, I pray that before anything else I can guide and lead the ruler and those who persecuted me. In the writing we are currently studying, he states, Nichiren is a compassionate father and mother to all people of Japan. These words not only highlight the great mission he had awakened to, but also convey his deep, all-encompassing compassion. The Lotus Sutra is a humanistic teaching that seeks to enable all people to reveal their inherent dignity, their Buddhahood. Slander of the law refers to that which stands in opposition to these ideals, to negative actions or beliefs that devalue people, discriminate against them, and destroy life. Delusion. It is important to thoroughly denounce such slander. In addition, the Daishonin was determined to lead to enlightenment the country's rulers and others who were persecuting him, as symbolized by the practice of Bodhisattva never disparaging, mentioned earlier, the foundation of Buddhism in the unshakable belief that all people possess the Buddha nature. Practitioners of Nichiren Buddhism dedicated to realizing Kosen Rufu respect everyone as equally noble and worthy beings, regardless of their social state or position. They teach others about Buddhism, directly addressing their Buddha nature. Today, it is the SGI that is carrying on the Daishonin spirit of propagation and holding high the banner of Kosen Rufu. 5 stages faced by every great movement. Mahatma Gandhi once outlined, middle of page 134, first column. Mahatma Gandhi once outlined 5 stages that every great movement passes through: indifference, ridicule, abuse, repression, and respect. Just as Gandhi posits, Soka Gakkai members in the early days of our movement experienced misinformed criticism, abuse, and persecution because of their faith. The hardships and trials encountered by our members living on outlying islands such as Okinawa and Amani were especially severe. But in most such places, through steady persevering efforts in dialogue and dedicated involvement in civic-minded activities, our members have won the trust of their neighbors and helped spread understanding of the Soka Gakkai. Today, on many of Japan's remote islands and also in isolated mountain communities, our members have built ideal realms of Kosen Rufu. That means everybody in town chants. There are growing numbers of treasure lands where our people's movement, rooted in the community and warmly supported by fellow residents, is being applauded. Indeed, we live in an age when the network of bodhisattvas of the earth that enjoys the respect of which Gandhi spoke has spread throughout Japan and around the world. We have enabled many people who at first rejected Nichiren Buddhism to start practicing and lead happy lives, ushering in an age of Kosen Rufu where people are now open to and readily accept the teachings of the mystic law. A spirit of respect for all people imbues SGI members' actions and prayers and actions. Everyone has potential as vast as the universe. Everyone's a Buddha. That's why we cannot help encouraging those who are striving hard and those who are suffering. Having gained this state of life, we warmly embrace and chant for the happiness of even those who, based on ignorance or misunderstanding, criticized us in the past. Because we have always acted with a spirit of respect for others, we have been able to transform any place or environment into a Buddha land, based on the Daishonin's ideal of establishing the correct teaching for the peace of the land. No one else has ever realized such a great and noble accomplishment. It is, as the Daishonin says, indeed no ordinary matter, and we are certain to be lauded by the Daishonin to the same degree he expressed in this letter. It moves me so that I can barely restrain my tears. Top of page 135. It is proof of your wonderful victory in life. It is a great drama of transformation. It is a bold and triumphant achievement of champions of humanity. No one can stop this momentous tide of Kosen Rufu. We have reached the stage when people around the world are praising our movement as one of the great accomplishments in the history of the common people. Strong prayer is the key to making the impossible possible. From the Gosho. When I was exiled to this place, Sato Island, I assumed that no one would come to visit me. But I have no fewer than 7 or 8 persons with me here, and if it were not for your consideration, I do not know how we could manage to keep the whole group in provisions. I am certain that this is all because the characters of the Lotus Sutra have taken possession of your bodies in order to give us aid. I am praying that, no matter how troubled the times may become, the Lotus Sutra and the 10 demon daughters will protect all of you, praying as earnestly as though to produce fire from damp wood or to obtain water from parched ground. There are many other matters to discuss, but I will close here. Second column, page 135. At the end of this letter, the Daishonin writes of his determination to protect, amid tumultuous times, his precious disciples who are taking the lead for Kosen Rufu. On Sato, where people hate the Daishonin 100,000, 10,000 million more times than those in Kamakura, his survival until now has been due to the sincere assistance and offerings of his disciples. He says, praising and thanking them, he writes that the characters or words of the Lotus Sutra must have entered into each of them, moving them to support the life of the votary of the Lotus Sutra. He describes his feelings in his closing lines. I am praying that no matter how troubled the times may become, the Lotus Sutra and the 10 demon daughters will protect all of you, praying as earnestly as though to produce fire from damp wood or to obtain water from parched ground. These words vividly convey the Daishonin's warm concern for his disciples in Kamakura, so far away from Sado. It is a passage imbued with his fervent prayers for their safety amid dangerous times. It emanates his powerful determination to protect them by praying as earnestly as though to produce fire from damp wood or to obtain water from parched ground. And that's how we should pray. The Daishonin's prayer is based on a vow, which is why we should pray that way. A vow grounded in the belief that his inner determination, which should be ours if we're of the same mind, could transform any circumstance. That's mugiwashi. That's doubt-free faith. He was firmly resolved to break through every difficulty and protect all his disciples through his prayer. I do, and I think you should too. Okay? At the time of the Osaka campaign in Kansai in 1956, when we achieved what everyone had said was impossible, I read this passage with our members as we launched into action. With the Daishonin's powerful conviction alive in our hearts, let us today again set forth with strong prayer and continue to advance. What is the greatest joy in life? To encounter a true mentor, someone who is completely accepting, who supports us, who teaches and guides us, and who fosters us. Such a mentor is the greatest treasure in life. When we have our mentor on our hearts, when we live our lives with our mentor, we can challenge ourselves limitless and develop without end. The lives of those who align themselves with such a mentor are never deadlocked. The days of my youth I spent striving alongside my mentor, Josei Toda, decided the course of my entire life. He trained and instructed me with both rigor and warmth. Rigor, he was tough on him, and taught me the fundamental way to win in life and society for the sake of Kosen Rufu. He said, dedicate your life to the path of Soka, mentor and disciple. You will never regret it. He said, first, you have to change yourself. Don't rely on others. You take action. Can't you hear the sternness there?
Yes.
This is a decisive moment. If you remain steadfast in your faith when facing hardships, you'll attain great benefit later. Chantai Moku until you make a breakthrough.
Yes.
Be firm in your commitment. Other people are other people. You are you.
Yes.
The most important thing is having the spirit to keep challenging yourself. Come what may. Okay? He didn't talk to him like happy talk. Such guidance from Mr. Toda still rings vibrantly in my ears because his heartfeltness is true.
Yes.
And I continue to converse with him in my heart as I take the lead for worldwide Kosen Rufu. Dr. Vednanda, professor of international law at the University of Denver, once suggested that the reason for today's phenomenal growth of SGI is the mentor-disciple relationship. Nothing he said imparts greater insight or strikes a deeper chord in people's hearts. The true mentor-disciple relationship awakens disciples to what they should strive to accomplish. He added, concluding that the role of the disciple is to actualize and to demonstrate the mentor's teaching. This year, 2015, marks the 40th anniversary of the SGI's founding. Additionally, October will be the 55th anniversary of my first overseas trip for peace. In each country and community I visited, I prayed for the emergence of bodhisattvas of the earth and chanted with the intent of sowing the seeds of Buddhahood. More than half a century has passed since then, and now the SGI has grown into a great network of global citizens bringing the flowers of peace and friendship into bloom the world over. When mentor and disciple unite in prayer, they can create a powerful groundswell for Kosen Rufu. Together, let's achieve brilliant victories of Soka mentor and disciples in our communities, the place of mission entrusted to us by the Buddha. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.